Good morning. Good afternoon. Can anyone hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
My screen is blank. Thank you, Chair.
Alrighty, folks, thank you for joining. It is 1:30. We'll kick off today by recognizing that we're conducting our business today principally in the territories of the Copetchesett and Shuswap First Nations, to recognize and appreciate that fact. We also are having a meeting in a hybrid format, which means several things. First of which is that the meeting is also being conducted potentially on the traditional territories of other Nuu-chah-nulth and potentially other First Nations as well. That when we do question period at the end of the day, we do have an avenue for folks online to send in their questions. That's the email address and responses@acrd.bc.ca. And from there, at that agenda item, we'll check and see if there are any questions. Because this meeting is being conducted in a hybrid format, we do have people online in the boardroom today. So what I thought we would do is do our introductions for the people who are here present online, as well as, and then I'll call out names for folks to quickly introduce themselves online as well. The reason why we do this is because the recorded format, the broadcast format, doesn't necessarily show all of the attendees the same way that we do in gallery view. So when there's a speaker, it focuses solely on the speaker and it's harder to see everybody else. So it's good to do the introductions. With that in mind, we'll go around and we'll start with me, or actually we'll start with Director of Law, since he has his microphone open. So if you want to introduce yourself, and then we'll just go around kind of clockwise.
Is red microphone on? Oh, it is. Okay, there you go. I thought it was off. I'm Dan Long from Tofino, Mayor. It's great to be here.
I'm Daniel Sayan. I'm the CAO for the ACRD.
And I'm John Jack. I'm the Director for the Wiyut First Nations and Chairperson.
Good afternoon, Heather Zenner, Manager of Administrative Services.
Thank you. Debbie Hager, City of Port Alberni and Vice Chair of the Board.
Good afternoon, Clamma Penny Cote. I am the Electoral Area Director for Sprout Lake. Thank you.
I'm Mike Sparrow. I'm the electoral area for Cherry Creek. Good afternoon to you all.
Thank you. Wendy, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Good afternoon, Wendy Thompson, General Manager, Administrative Services for the Regional District.
Great, thank you. And then we'll go in no particular order, just the order I see it on my gallery view. Dr. Siga, do you want to go first? You'll need to unmute though. You were unmuted, but we didn't hear you. So maybe we'll come to you near the end. Okay about it? Yeah, Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, hi everyone. Bob Beckett, Area A Bamfield. Good to see everybody on this beautiful sunny day.
Great, thank you. Susan?
Hi, Susan Roth, Beaver Creek Electoral Area.
Fred?
Fred Boyko, Director of Beaufort.
Kristen?
Kirsten Johnson, Director for the Tokwat Nation.
Thank you and welcome back. Lavana?
Lavana Mastrangelo, Director from Ucluelet First Nation.
And Wilfred?
Good afternoon, everyone. Wilfred Coots, Ho-Chukchi Tribe Government. Chew.
Excellent. And before we move on to the next item, I'll just say that I'll just recognize that we have a former director in the crowd in the gallery today. We have former Director John McNabb from Beaver Creek. So thank you and glad to see you. Okay, so with that in mind, we'll move on to the next item, which is the approval of the agenda. So we don't have any new items, nor do we have any extra materials that have been posted. If they were, they would have been emailed to you before the meeting. So if we could just have a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Thank you, Director Cote, seconded by Director Haggard. Any comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion carried. Great. That brings us to declarations. Does anyone have any declarations, conflicts of interest, apparent conflicts of interest, or gifts exceeding $250 in value? Going once, going twice. Okay, so move on to the next item. Next up is the adoption of minutes for the Board of Directors meeting dated October 11th, 2023. Thank you. Motion to adopt, Director Cote, seconded by Director Sparrow. Any comments, errors, omissions, deletions, etc.? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. My apologies, Director Singh. I completely forgot to get back to you, but are you able to speak now?
I'm not sure if my computer is working, sorry.
We can hear you now, but you can introduce yourself now if you like. Sorry.
Thank you. I'm Veda Siga, Director for Area C. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so that brings us to item 5, which are petitions, delegations, and presentations. We have, I believe, 2 or 3 presentations today. We normally restrict our presentations to 10 minutes. However, if we think you're close to the end, I'll give you a few more minutes just to finish up. I'll hold up a finger or two that'll tell you how many minutes you have left on the, by my reckoning. If it doesn't look like you're quite close to the end of your presentation, however, I'll probably just pause there and ask the board to give you enough time to continue, just to make sure that when we do have a lot of delegations that everyone gets their time and we're just not here past dinner. With that, the first ones up are Nikki Schneider, the Operations Manager of Central Island, and Michael Pearson, Director for Vancouver Island District for the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. They're here to talk about the Highway 4 project operations and expectations through the winter months. So thank you and welcome, and hopefully your presentation works out okay. So they're just looking to start it up and share. Cool. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. And thank you for having us. We're here today just to provide a bit of a touch base on Highway 4. We've had a few of our first winter storms, and so happy to say that things have been going well. So just wanted to take an opportunity. We have a very short presentation, and then just take the opportunity to take any questions or comments. So here's just a bit of an overview of what we're speaking to today. We'll do introductions briefly. An overview of the event from the summer and how we're working with operations over the winter. And then we'll quickly touch on some of our other projects that we are working on, because Highway 4 Cameron Bluffs is not the only thing we have been working on. So as you know, I'm Mike Pearson, the Director for Vancouver Island District of the Ministry. I look after all of Vancouver Island and the Gulf Islands for highways.
Hi, I'm Nikki Schneider. I'm the Operations Manager for Service Area 2, which is the Mid-Island area of Vancouver Island District.
So I'm sure you're all very, very well aware of the event this summer, but I'll kind of go through it quite quickly. The highway closed on the 6th of June, and due to the forest fire above the highway at Cameron Bluffs. And we were able to reopen it to single lane alternating by June 23rd after completing some interim safety measures to allow us to continue to operate the highway. Between June 23rd and then the end of August, we completed a significant amount of rock scaling, endangered tree removal, and engineering assessments that included over 250 endangered trees removed, 1,000 tons of material, rock bolts, weird feedback. 1.5 kilometers of new barrier, as well as 600 meters of rock catchment fencing and a weather station to allow us to continue to monitor the conditions. And then we were fully reopened on August 31st. And here's just a picture of you can see the weather station on your right there. It's that little stand just behind the chevron. And as I say, this is just kind of a bit of a repeat, but this is kind of what the site looks like now. Again, the remediation work was completed And with the work that we did was really to bring the highway back to the pre-existing risk and rockfall, risk of debris fall condition. So what does that mean? That means that whatever the risk of incident for debris or rocks coming down before the forest fire is what we were able to return that level of risk to. It doesn't mean it's zero risk. It just means that it didn't get any worse because of the fire. That's what we were addressing. And so now we've developed an operations plan for ourselves, really, that is there to make sure that when we do get major weather events like we've seen in the last couple of weeks, that we're out there increasing the frequency of our patrols, we're ready to close the highway safely and in predictable and the same spots, and then continuing to rely on Drive BC for messaging to the public. A big thing for us has been, given the level of uncertainty and angst that's developed over the summer, we really wanted to not to help people understand that we've addressed the concerns that have been at this particular site. The highway can close for a number of reasons, as we all know, and so we're really trying to just put out the information when something does happen, and know that we're doing all that we can to monitor and watch the situation. So we wanted to provide a bit of information from the weather station that we had. This is actually the output from the event we had last week, where we got 135 millimeters of rain over a 48-hour period, which is a significant amount of rain over 2 days. And it's quite pleased to see that we had no rock fall, we had no debris fall, no tree fall. And even yesterday, over the last 24 hours, we had 80 millimeters of precipitation. And again, we've had no issues and nothing to report. During both of these events, we had Main Road out there patrolling hourly. And so that's basically our operation procedure. When we get these forecasted events, we want someone continuously there just watching. If conditions are going to change, if we start to hear something or see something, we're going to just increase the frequency so that we get information out as conditions change quickly. Yeah. With that, I'll pass it to Nikki.
Yeah. So as Mike mentioned, there's a number of other things that we're working on this year, and this is just some of the projects that we're carrying out in 2023-24. So some of the things that some of you might have noticed is there's an orange crosswalk at Sumas Drive and Highway 4 in Port Alberni, and so we've worked collaboratively with the Seychat First Nation to have that painted there. We're also performing some additional maintenance on Sumas Road. We're also working with Seychat First Nation for a corridor study along Highway 4 between Falls Road, which is on at the Orange Bridge, to Sprout Lake. And that corridor study is focusing on safety and accesses along the corridor in that stretch. We're also working with the District of Ucluelet and Tofino for some junction improvements. And that's been an ongoing effort to improve the junction at the end of Highway 4 there on Pacific Rim Highway. Something we're also working on is an overhead DMS board that will be installed near the junction so that people can be warned of potential highway closures or drive conditions or other matters before they enter into the Highway 4 corridor there. And then we're also working with the Ucluelet First Nation on some additional maintenance items towards their community at the end of Port Alberni Road. So that's really the end.
That's the end of our. Happy to take any questions or comments.
All right, thank you very much for that presentation. Okay, so we'll open it up to questions and comments. Director Haggard, then Director Cote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When the fire started and the roads closed and you announced it was going to be August before it was reopened, I personally, along with a lot of other people in the community, thought, no way, this is going to be a way of our life for months and months. It'll be ongoing. But I just want to really thank you and your staff for doing such a wonderful job, closing traffic and giving us, up-to-date information and, being there for questions if we had questions. But getting the work done on time, and it looks fantastic. It looks way better. So I just want to really thank you for doing such a wonderful job for us. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Cote?
Thank you.
Excuse me. Thank you, through the chair. Thanks for the information bringing this forward. I think it's really important that you put on a public face and have open communication with the public, because there is a lot of questions around the Cameron Bluffs closures that have happened throughout the summer. We're still looking at the effects of the closures to our economy within the communities, everything that was cut off. I've since heard that there's new gates that have been put up. And I'm assuming that those are for if there's any occurrence that happens through the winter months. I'm sure it's needed and it's a good measure to be taking, but it's also I heard from Director McNabb actually about the confidence level of residents that have and visitors, that are they going to get in? Are they not going to be able to get out? So just wanted to heighten that sort of expectation of what people are thinking of to be able to come into our communities. The Dog Mountain fire, I know that this is different, that the Cameron Bluffs have been scaled, but the Dog Mountain fire was 7 years ago, I'm thinking. There's still slides coming down continually. So, and that's different times of the year through the heat. The rock contraction and expansion, I'm expecting that freezing rain that gets into the cracks where the roots were may do some loosening of rock. That's my own assumptions. I'm not an expert, so we're all relying on you and the experts that you bring in to let us know what's happening. Some reassurance going to the community through communications. I don't know if you can do commercials or whatever you need to do to say that we're open and that we don't expect any more closures to happen. It's what the gates are sort of signaling. The Highway 4 corridor study with the TSHAT along the highway. Wow, thank you so much. I did a tour with the Ministry of Transportation and Main Road just within the last month, and half the crew went along Faber and came out Sterling out onto McCoy Lake Road out to the highway. We met at the landfill, and I came along the highway and cut into McCoy Lake Road, and I almost had on somebody right at that corner. It's super dangerous. The way that it's angled, yeah, I came around the corner and was lucky that somebody was aware of what I was doing. Thank you for that. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Go ahead.
No, thank you, and appreciate the comments. And yeah, I can appreciate, given circumstances, that seeing those gates go up is making a lot of people nervous and maybe testing their confidence. But I can assure you that the intent of the gates is actually for us to be able to be more proactive. If in the event something does happen, everyone will be able to see those closure points. So there'll be some certainty about it's closed at the top of the hump, it's closed at Chalet Road, and it also allows us to do it safely. We don't have to have flaggers out there. We can have someone in a truck obviously watching it, but it's for worker safety, it's for expediency, and it's for predictability. So I totally take the point that right now, given the timing, maybe it's testing confidence, but it's really just for a traffic management measure.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I forgot one more thing. Cathedral Grove, is there any more studies happening? Seemed that there was movement before COVID, and then it just kind of disappeared. Thanks.
Cathedral Grove. So not at the moment. No, there's no studies going on at the moment. We are looking at sort of some little things like maybe some additional barrier in some spots. But the project that we were looking at a couple of years ago that we consulted on, that one's sort of in shelves for now. So there's nothing moving on that right now.
So no 4-story parkade or anything?
Not yet, no.
Thank you. Thank you for being patient. Director Polito, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think we all experienced delays and going back over the past, 3-4 months. One of the more accurate things of shutdowns and timings, and that was actually some of the Facebook groups rather than Drive BC. It would actually be updated an hour or 2, 4 hours before Drive BC actually got updated. Is there a way to make Drive BC more accurate and faster so that people driving don't get stuck, even though they've consulted it and then it's delayed? But at the same time, thanks for all your hard work.
So a couple things on that. Drive BC is actually some program we're actually looking at revamping right now. That's probably a year-long project. But throughout this event, social media, it is a really good informative tool, and I'm sure a lot of people used it. And it's instantaneous, and that's quite frankly something we cannot keep up with. The information we're putting out on Drive BC, it's really important that it's accurate. And so what we found is we're usually about 30 to 45 minutes behind the latest information, and that's really in our minds that's reasonable amount of time to provide reasonable and accurate information. One of the problems we saw with social media this summer even is inaccurate information going out there about Angel Rock fell down and all kinds of crazy things. So it's really important for us, anything we're putting out, even though it takes us a little bit longer, is accurate.
Thank you for that. Director Roth, go ahead.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I'm curious to know if the Ministry of Transportation has done any work towards the Horn Lake Connector as an alternate route.
There's been extensive work done on the Horn Lake Connector route. Both the ACRD has done studies in the past, as well as the ministry. Most recently in 2016, there was a business case completed, and that report's actually available online. I'm happy to send the link if that would be helpful. So that 2016 was the last time that it was really revisited as a study. I know there's a lot of discussion coming around secondary routes and permanent routes. And that's something we're going to be working with the CRD on in terms of the transportation working group. So,
thank you.
Next up, I have Director Sparrow.
Thank you for that. One of the things you said is engineering's done on this route. Is that to get the rocks and the trees down, or is that more extensive studies done to see what we can do in the future to alleviate the concerns of this area?
Yeah, thank you. I meant to mention that in your comment as well. The work that we did this summer was all engineered. So we hired WSP as our geotechnical engineering, and they were the ones that produced the rock scaling plans, and they did all the assessments on the rock scaling that needed to be completed, as well as the bolt patterns that needed to be done in all the engineering. They're the ones that have said to us that yes, we're back to that pre-existing condition. In addition to the rock, we also had our own internal geotechnical engineers on site every day throughout the entire summer. And we hired professional danger tree assessors through BC Wildfire Service, who have done multiple assessments, and we'll probably have to come back in the spring and do another one, which will kind of be an ongoing activity. But to answer shortly, yes, we've done lots of engineering on this.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank you for your presentation. And you're always welcome to come back, and we can ask you about Cathedral Grove again.
Can't wait. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so next up we have Mr. Hugh Grist and Mr. Ken Watson. Potentially, are you going up to start coming up or no? Okay. They're here from the Upper New Valley Community Foundation regarding the new vital signs publication. Thank you and welcome.
Okay, we're with it now, I think. Thanks. Good afternoon, and thanks for making time for us on your agenda today. My name is Ken Watson. I'm the director on the Alberni Valley Community Foundation Board, and this is Hugh Grist, who is actually the president of the Alberni Valley Community Foundation. And our purpose this afternoon is to introduce our new publication, Vital Signs Report, which there's a copy of in front of each of you there. And also to thank you for your ongoing financial support for the publication of this document over a number of years. Oh, there's a copy of the iconic place you will recognize, of course, for our cover this year. And first, a little bit of background about about community foundations. They're widespread across Canada. There's almost 200 of them in the country, and the Alberni Valley Community Foundation has been around for 23 years. The purpose of the foundation is to make funding available to needful charities and nonprofits in the community. And the money that we get from bequests and donations is held in perpetuity, and the interest is dispersed. Over time, we've accumulated up to 1.2 million right now, which allows us to disperse about $60,000 a year in interest income, and that will be perpetually available to the community. And I'm pleased to report there are some really sizable new donations coming soon, so watch for a news release on that, which will allow us to even increase that amount going forward in future years. The other important thing, of course, is getting more requests. And so if you're thinking about doing estate planning or know someone that is, and you'd like to support the community or some particular cause in the community in perpetuity, the Community Foundation is a very simple and secure way to make that happen. So much for the ad. So Vital Signs is a report that's done by many community foundations. It's been around for about 20 years, and over 50 communities in the country do that. Ours have been doing for about 10 years, and they're available on our website. What the Vital Signs report does is it takes a snapshot of the community and provides insight that might not normally be available to people about the bright spots and maybe the challenges that we face in our community. And it does it using objective data from a variety of sources that can be useful to a lot of organizations in the community making decisions about what they should be doing in the community. So this edition of Vital Signs is the fourth one that the Alberni Valley Community Foundation has done. You may recognize some of the previous ones that are up there on the screen. So we did those in 2015, 2018, and 2020. So not an annual report, but one that we do probably semi-annually or roughly. We had a little bit of more of a hiatus due to COVID, thanks. It's important to keep, and these are all available on our website. And it's interesting to look at the older ones because you can track some of the statistics and the data that we keep track of over the longer term and see how things are progressing or maybe not progressing in the community. So the new one, the new report has been made because a variety of new data has become available both through the 2022 census, and we recognize that our community is experiencing change over the last few years, and we incorporated in this year's report some new areas of focus, including food and housing, which are critical areas in the community that needed, I think, some monitoring and some objective assessment. Also included in this report, as in previous reports, is a community survey. So it's not just data from far away. It's also what people in the community think. So we did have a survey done, ran for 6 weeks, and we garnered about 320 responses, which we were hoping for more. We have had more in the future or in the past, so we're not sure why, but 320 is still, I think, a valid response. And those voices are reflected loud and clear in the report under sections on each page called community voices about each of the initiatives that are addressed in the report. The rest of the data comes from a variety of sources. As I said, a lot of it is brought together by the Community Foundations of Canada, which is an umbrella organization of which to remember. Also, we collect local data from a variety of organizations. As you'll see in the report, there are some changes in the number of indicators or the indicators that we're tracking. So So have a look and see what those are. Hugh was going to make some comments, I think, about global impacts.
Yeah, the United Nations started 17 sustainable goals about 2016. That was first unrolled out. We try to meet some of those. Obviously, some of these are global impact that we have no control over, but we do address food security. They call it zero hunger. We address clean water and healthy habits, that type of thing. So we're trying to address as many as we can in the community. And of course, CFC, Community Foundation of Canada, has backed that whole proposal. They're trying to get all these sustainable goals. If we could achieve those, it'd be great. With all the things going on in the global today, I'm not sure how close we get into that. That would be an ideal situation.
So going forward, we provide this report in the hope and that you'll refer to it and keep some of the insights provided about our community in mind when you're making decisions, both as a board with regard to your formal duties and also as an individual in the community when you make decisions about things like where to buy and that kind of stuff. So it's all there for you. And if you are a member of a NEPL organization, charity or nonprofit community, there's some information on the screen there about how you can apply by the end of February for a grant, which will be released at our AGM coming up in May. So and thank you for your time today. We'd be very pleased to answer any questions that you have.
And could you stop sharing your screen too on the thing, just so I can see if there's anybody online live. Thank you. Awesome. Okay. All right, we'll open this up for comment. Director Cote, please go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair. Thank you for your presentation. I look forward to the vital signs coming out I think it's every 2 years. Yes. And I know that on the alternate years, the West Coast has theirs come out as well. So it's wonderful information that we refer to through the Health Network quite regularly and provides a lot of really good information for reports. And I know that the regional district will be able to use this information on many subjects. So thank you very much for the work that you've done.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Director Haggard, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank you for including housing and food sustainability in your report this year. Housing is top of mind for every regional district and municipality right now throughout Canada because there's such a shortage of housing. And regardless to food sustainability, I think that really came to the forefront for me during COVID and really how fragile our food chain is and how we have to be more locally grown foods and support our farmers and put a garden in our backyard. That's really important because I do that now too. So, and as far as the information that you give, I just want to let you know, I refer to this all the time in my work with the city and now the regional district. It's just such great information and I use it all the time. Thank you.
That's great. That's great to hear that that's of value to us. Thank you very much for that input.
Any further comments or questions? I have a lot of comments about the presentation and quality of this document, and I'm really appreciative of the work that gets done when these do come out. The things that you've chosen to report on are really helpful, and it helps set a common ground for people to start their discussions. I especially like some of the information in regards to on the 9th page. You have children and youth, and then you have the child poverty rate conversation, which is a huge conversation. And I very much appreciate that it's there and that you did mention that in 2017, about 29% of children were living in poverty, or at least in low income. But then that reduced from 29 to roughly 19. But then you identified that it's likely due to CERB benefits and not indicative of long-term poverty reduction. So this is exactly the kind of information that is helpful for the types of things and the types of metrics that we're hoping to meet beat in certain instances. And I could go on, especially with the different conversations about the environment, waste diversion rates, talking about food security, talking about all of the things that we may want to look at in order to actually move the needle on a long-term basis. These are the types of things that we need to see in context, and you provide that context in a way that is very helpful for having those kind of real object-oriented discussions, which helps. Were there any further comments or questions? Dr. Law, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I just like to say, I love data, and just looking through this is an excellent document. Very easy to read, and there's some fantastic data here. I just want to commend you on it, really, and just compare what you're doing. Thank you
very much.
Originally, it was the help foundations where to put their money for our benefit. It turned out everybody else benefited from it more than we do. They're too small to affect it globally. The groups like that really does make a difference. And I might point out, without a foundation, things like COVID and SERB, we wouldn't have got the money coming to this community without the foundation being here. We've got 2 SERB grants, and not SERB grants, the Community Sources Recovery Fund from the federal government, $170,000. We got 2 charities here. We wouldn't have got that without the foundation being here. And $140,000 COVID funding came in for food, which went to Better Life and Salvation Army. So it's important you keep the foundation going to get more money from that federal programs.
Okay, on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank you for your presentation and thank you for the 2023 Alberni Valley Vital Signs document. This will help us in the future. Thank you. Oh, great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, oh, there were only 2. Alrighty, so that brings us into the main agenda items. Item 6 is correspondence for action. First of which is a request for a letter of support for the district's grant applications to BC Housing. Would anyone like to speak to this from staff? Daniel? Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, but I can speak to it. I think it's great to see Ucluelet advancing with this kind of initiative. I think everywhere in the region, people are working towards trying to address the housing issue, and this is a great step in the right direction from a staff perspective in terms of Ucluelet's initiative. So the letter of support is what's being requested, and staff placed a possible motion in your agenda to consider.
Would anyone here like to make that motion? Dr. Haggard, go ahead.
I'd like to move that the ACRD Board of Directors forward a letter to the District of Ucluelet supporting their application in partnership with the West Coast Community Resources Society to BC Housing for a 2023 Community Housing Grant for proposed development of 5 units of affordable and rental housing units to be operated by the Society on district-owned lands.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Yeah, everyone. Director Sparrow, thank you. Okay, any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? And motion carried. Thank you. All right, that brings us to item B, which is a request for a letter of support for the Alberni Valley Makerspace. Please go ahead.
Along similar lines, in terms of looking for a letter of support for an application from that's moving forward to Rural Economic Diversification and Infrastructure Program, and that's being advanced by the Alberni Valley Makerspace. In this case, it really is nice to see that everyone in their own ways contributing towards trying to address some of the job losses that have occurred and some of the job force retraining and redevelopment, and that's exactly what our Makerspace is doing. I will flag one of the key areas that piqued my interest is their mentorship. It's one thing to learn new skills. It's quite another to be paired on a one-on-one mentorship format and formula, and to recognize that the Makerspace is doing that through their own volunteers and group. And it seems like a really a good initiative, and staff placed a possible motion for the board to consider there.
Thank you. Would anyone like to move the motion as presented? Thank you, Director Law. Seconded by Director Haggard. Thank you.
I'll move that the ACRD Board of Directors forward a letter to Alberni Valley Makerspace supporting their project proposal to the Forest Impact Transition component of the Rural Economic Diversification and Infrastructure Program to pilot the Alberni Valley Makerspace as a workforce development value-added manufacturing training facility.
Moved and seconded by Director Haggard. Any further comments? All right, great. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, that brings us to item C, which is the request for the appointment and alternate appointment to the Vancouver Island Regional Library Board. This one's pretty straightforward. We just need someone to be appointed to the library as well as an alternate director. Dr. Cote, would you like to be appointed as the main? Yeah, she's indicated yes. Usually I have been the alternate director who's been put forward, although I'm thinking that I might not have the time now that I'm the chief counselor for Hooyah. I'm wondering if anybody else would like to take a stab at being the alternate. Dr. Haggard? Anybody else? Sorry, say again? Oh, it doesn't have to be a
I think
non-municipal?
I think that in the past there was a volunteer from the city, and for some reason the city has their representative already. Yes. Okay. But could be anybody.
Anyone else interested in being an alternate member to the board of directors for the Vancouver Island Regional Library? Going once, going twice. Okay, well, we'll go with that. Okay, thank you for stepping forward, or not stepping back in this case. Would anyone like to move the motion to appoint Dr. Cote and Dr. Haggard? Thank you, Dr. Sparrow. You don't need to read it out. It's okay. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Mastrangelo. Okay. Okay, any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay, motion carried. Thank you very much. Okay, so that brings us to item 7, which is correspondence for information. Would anyone like to pull anything up? I will for item C. Welcome back, Kirsten, and send congratulations to everyone. Okay, seeing that, do we have a motion to receive that? Thank you, Dr. Cote and Dr. Law. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, that brings us into item 8A, request for decisions and bylaws. This one has to do with public engagement policy. Wendy, would you like to speak to this? Thank you. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Regional district staff have developed a public engagement policy for consideration by the board of directors this afternoon. The policy will guide how the regional district communicates with the public in an open and transparent manner. The policy establishes a formal public engagement approach for all regional district projects and operations, and will provide staff with the tools to engage the public effectively and consistently. The policy follows the best practices that's modeled and laid out by the International Association of Public Participation, known as IAP2. When addressing public engagement, it addresses 5 levels of engagement: inform, consult, involve, collaborate, and empower. And the policy is presented for your consideration, and I'd be pleased to answer any more questions or any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any comments or questions regarding the policy? Dr. Sparrow, please go ahead.
No, thank you for that. So if we have a town hall meeting without anybody from the HCRD, they won't be involved in this policy, but if we want somebody from the HCRD to show up to help us, it would involve this policy.
That's a good question. So yes, like when you have your own engagement as an elected official, if you're not involving staff, if it's not part of our work plan, then we're always there to support you, to help with admin support and mail outs or anything like that. But if it is an elected official that's leading the way, you have an example of best practice, but you're not bound to it in the same way. What you have is your code of conduct and other things that guide your activities. But this is where staff is involved in planning for projects. So things that are of interest, so like the OCP outreach, for example, is a great example for us to reference in terms of the types of structures that we would look at a staff level and ensure are in place for consistency. Obviously, if elected officials want to do something more involved, we recommend that it come back to the board table and that it be led through our formal structures. But something like the town hall meetings that we've been seeing are certainly more of an approach that is led by an elected official as opposed to staff. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Okay. Any further comments or questions? Dr. Law, go ahead.
I just want to say that I found the IAP2 guidelines very helpful, both for for myself in this position, but also for the community to know where they stand in development proposals, etc. So I just want to encourage you on this one. Thank you.
Great. Any further comments? Seeing none, there's a suggested motion here to approve the policy. Do we have a motion to that effect? Dr. Cote, seconded by Dr. Haggard. Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. All right, that brings us to item B, which is a request for decision regarding West Coast Landfill tipping fee bylaw amendment. Paulo, thank you and welcome. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir, and hello, everybody. On October 4th, 2023, the West Coast Committee met and went over the tipping fee review for the West Coast landfill, much like we did with the Alberni Valley landfill much earlier in the year. So there was a fair bit of discussion regarding, what the fees look like, and went through the same sort of fee structures as before. And just a couple of highlights: the pieces on, the $5 minimum for bags, boost and recreation vehicle fees. The increases on the recyclable materials for commercial cardboard, clean wood, organics, those kinds of materials. The one exception, of course, is gypsum and drywall. We have it in the Alberni Valley. We don't have a diversion opportunity for that on West Coast. So that was the one piece that remained out of that piece. And the focus was specifically those goals of ensuring those expenses related to solid waste systems are adequately covered, our assets are covered as far as the landfills are concerned, and our mechanisms for building capital reserves for projects for future closure, post-closure for the landfill were put in place. There is a recommendation before you now to move that bylaw forward, and I'm open to any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, so we do have it is a bylaw, so we do have all three readings and adoption. So once we get to pass the first reading, if we do so, then you can just say second reading, third reading, and adoption afterwards, if need be. Are there any motions to that effect? Thank you, Dr. Siga. Do you want to read out the first motion, please? Please go ahead.
I'd like to move that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give first reading to bylaw number R1033-5 amendment, West Coast Landfill Tipping Fee and Regulation Bylaw.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Long. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. Do you want to continue, Dr. Siga?
I would like to move the second reading of bylaw R1033-5 amendment.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Law. Further comment? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried.
And I'd like to move the third reading of bylaw R1033-5 amendment to the West Coast Landfill Tipping Fee and Regulation Bylaw.
Excellent. And seconding. Thank you, Dr. Sparrow. Any further comments? All those in favor? Motion carried. And would you like to move adoption as well, Director Seager?
Oops, I would like to move that the Alberni, that the adoption of bylaw R1033-5 amendment West Coast landfill tipping fee and regulation bylaw.
Thank you. And seconded by? Thank you, Director Johnson. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, that brings us to item C, cooling infrastructure grant support for Dock Plus. Daniel, please go ahead.
This is a request for a letter of support for an application that's being advanced by the Port Alberni Port Authority. And it is to expand the cooling infrastructure at Dock Plus. I think just to bring it into context, we've had a lot of discussions around the training that we've had for meat processing, which was a very successful program. We're running it again this year, and the expansion of the cooling infrastructure at Dock Plus would help facilitate the storage of meats and courses like this, as well as fruit processing was also identified. Advancing support does not come with any money, so we're just adding our political support to this application. And I also wanted to flag that our Agricultural Development Committee did review this and also is in support of this application.
Thank you for that. Dr. Boyko, I'm wondering if you had a comment and accidentally disconnected.
I did both. Thank you, Chair. We had a meeting with the Ag Development Committee yesterday, and this was one of the topics that was brought up, that this is very important for future courses as well as other opportunities that are happening there. And everybody fully supports it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Would you like to move the motion, Dr. Boyko?
Give me 10 seconds here. I'll move a motion that the Alberni Claycourt Regional District Board of Directors direct staff to draft a letter of support for the Port Alberni Port Authority's grant application to expand cooling infrastructure at the Dock Plus facility. Thank you.
And seconded by Director Beckett. Thank you. Further comment? Seeing none, I'll just say that I agree with everything that's already been put forward. This is any kind of infrastructure that will help with logistics, especially of our food systems, is exactly the kind of change we need to see in order to kind of hedge ourselves against future shocks, I guess. Okay, with that, all those in favor? A motion carried. That brings us to item D, grant funding application for food waste prevention and diversion. Paulo, please go ahead.
Thank you again, Chair. Through to the group. So this is a grant that came across our desk at the beginning of the month here, and the grant itself is called the Food Waste Prevention and Diversion Initiative. It's pushing for research and building initiatives to prevent and divert food waste that's going into landfills. That's coming through the federal government. And it's really a focus on local government assistance to be able to develop that capacity. Where we saw some opportunities, and it relates to the two recommendations we'll go into here, is we looking on the recent success for rolling out Sort and Go in 3 stream waste management to the communities of the West Coast and the city of Port Alberni most recently, and being successful with diverting organics from landfilling to the tune of 40% diversion just within the city of Port Alberni alone for single family homes. And then we're slowly approaching that as well as we see the West Coast. When we went through the process of organics diversion, we also looked at the rural areas, the remote areas such as Bamfield, to see what that kind of capacity was like. And we'd propose doing some kind of program implementation, but too much in the way of budget limitations. So looking forward at this, we see this grant as a real opportunity to develop some research to revisit the idea of putting in some sort of organic diversion capacity in there. And from the original study we'd looked at a few years ago with the area, the community was very on board with some sort of a centralized area to contain and promote organics diversion right at the Bamfield transfer station, which would necessitate some upgrades. So just flipping through, The other piece to this is Sishot First Nation has also reached out to us and notified us that they are also interested in pursuing organics diversion with their own community and are putting in a similar application, much like others around. So in the case of Shuswap First Nation, we'd be looking at getting a letter of support to support their application. The deadline for the grant, I've just learned, has been extended out to November 14th. So we have a bit of time, but we'd like to get that forward. And as well, we'd primarily like to get approval to move forward with applying for the actual grant for Bamfield area. Those are kind of the key takeaways. Grant pricing is $150,000. Rough estimate for Bamfield development would be approximately $300,000 based over 2 years. So we would provide half. The federal government would provide half if the grant is successful. That's about it. So open for any questions.
Dr. Cote, please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for Sprout Lake to work with the Tishat First Nation on this project. I know that there is no food diversion at the landfill. So I'm wondering if that could be sort of in line with what's happening here. I'd like to see if staff could reach out and find out if that's an opportunity that we could work with them. I also have a question about the funding. You said we, and who is we to do half the funding? Thank you.
Thank you. Paula, do you want to answer that first?
Yeah, absolutely. So the funding would come out of the solid waste budget, the Alberni Valley and Bamfield Services solid waste budget. That's where that would come from. And that would be reflected in the 2024-2025 financial plan.
Great. And Daniel, can you answer the Tishat one?
I think it's fair to say that wherever there's an opportunity to introduce diversion where diversion is not occurring, you'll get a yes from staff because it is part of our priorities. So what we'll do is we'll certainly take a look at how it is that we could collaborate that way. We'll flag it with Shot Nation and we'll bring it back to you, Director Cote.
Dr. Beckett, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I'm glad Director Cote asked that question about the we, because I wondered if that would have an impact on taxation for the residents. So let me ask that question first, and then I have a comment about the proposal. So Chair, through you to Paulo, can you speak to that?
Sure can, Director Beckett. That funding will obviously come out of the primary piece with the Alberni Bamfield and Services as a whole for the solid waste budget there. I can't speak yet to what that budgetary impact would be. It would obviously be reflected within the actual 2024 financial plan to see what that actual calculation would look like. And it all, again, is predicated on whether or not we get the grant. That's about all I can provide so far. I can dig into it and provide some more information as a follow-up.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think the grant is one thing, but again, I am sensitive, given the limited numbers of households that are paying the lion's share of all services in the community. That said, I am supportive of moving forward, and I would like to make the motion in just a moment, but I did also want to comment on any organic diversion, must take into consideration our community and the wildlife in our community, and specifically the bears that I think for the most part, we as a community share and welcome in our community. And I would hate to go in any direction that impacts their well-being as well. So that being said, Mr. Chair, if I could, I would like to make the motion that the Bernie-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors support the grant funding application to the funding program Food Waste Prevention and diversion for the Banfield Organics pilot project.
Thank you for that. Do we have a seconder? Everyone, thank you, Director Long. Any further comments? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Dr. Cote, did you want to move this next motion? Sorry. Oh, sorry to put you on the spot, Dr. Cote. I can read it out. So that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors endorse a letter of support for Seashop First Nations application for the Food Waste Prevention and Diversion Grant Fund opportunity. So moved. Thank you. And seconded by Dr. Haggard. Any further comments? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. So I'm wondering, would it be beneficial for both of these communities to have letters of support from other First Nations?
I would say yes.
Could we officially ask the Bluyett First Nations and perhaps other First Nations for their support as well?
We will do that. I have to see Wendy making notes, so yes.
If we can get that email out as soon as possible after this meeting, I can walk it into the council meeting tomorrow. Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to item 9.1, planning matters. So these planning matters are generally restricted only to electoral area directors to vote upon, but every director counts for quorum, so please do not disconnect. Okay, with that in mind, we have 9.1A for Banfield. Daniel, would you like to take this? Go ahead.
Yes, our chief planners are away at the Planning Institute of BC conference, and so I get to be your designated planner for the day. On this application, I do want to flag that this is the rezoning application RA 23009 for 390 Banfield Inlet. The board received this application originally on September 27th. And resolved to consider first reading and go through the statutory requirements of notifying neighbors and technical agencies. We've met all those requirements in notifying people. We have received no correspondence from the public, but from the technical agencies, we have received support of this bylaw. So staff are recommending that we give 3 readings to the bylaw. If for whatever reason the board prefers to advance a public hearing, the report, I believe on page 101, offers the option to go to public hearing instead.
Yes, it does. Thank you. Director Beckett, would you like to take us away?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to move that the bylaw P1485 Regional District of Alberni-Clayoquot Zoning Atlas Amendment bylaw be read a first time.
Thank you. Seconded by Director Roth. Comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried.
Move a second time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Seconded by, thank you, Director Boyko. Comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay, motion carried.
And finally, the bylaw P1485 Regional District of Alberni-Clayoquot Zoning Atlas Amendment bylaw be read a third time.
Thank you, Director Roth, for seconding. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you for voting, Director Boyko. It's real multitasking. Item B is a temporary use permit for Banfield. Dan, I guess it's you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is an application for a temporary use permit for short-term rental on 142 South Banfield Road. The board received the initial application at the September 27th meeting and resolved to go through with neighbor notification process. We've received no correspondence back from the public. I will flag that a temporary use permit would be valid for up to 3 years. and would allow for short-term rentals of the existing 3-bedroom house on the property. The property owners also currently reside at the property, and they've also provided contact information of a local caretaker who would be responsible for the rental if they were not available. As a general notice, I will say that the staff always support a temporary use permit for short-term rentals. It allows us to know that the compliance is being reached, and if there are complaints, it actually gives us legs to stand on in a legitimate way to take action. Squirt. Yeah, this one.
Okay, but, oh, okay, mine kicked back in. Dr. Boyko, comments?
Yes, thank you, Chair. My only comment would be, we still need to find a resolution to all the short-term rentals in the future. Not short-term rentals, but the temporary use permits, because over 3 years, the second 3 years, they all expire. And we don't have anything in place for the ones that were started in 2018 that will be expiring next year. So people are a little bit hesitant to do this. I mean, this one's a good example of one that should be approved and everything like that. But in 6 years from now, we do not have a plan in place for the future. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Daniel, go ahead.
That is an excellent question and comment. And we are currently going through the OCP process. Housing is an important factor in that. And as a matter of good practice, once we're done with the outreach with the public, realistically, if things have been working well on a temporary use permit, it's important for staff to come back with options around potential rezonings that properties could explore, that the board could explore. It does not force the board to go down that path, but it is part of the discussion, because if things are working out, one of the better tools is to look at the creation of appropriate zoning. And of course, that would be done in, it would take some time to do, and done in correspondence with some good public outreach.
Thank you for that. Dr. Cote, go ahead.
Thank you. So with all of the new provincial legislation that's coming forward, I've heard of possibly creating a business license for short-term rentals, which would actually be in some ways beneficial, because it would eliminate the temporary use permit need that will run out after 2 terms of 3 years. And some are getting close to that now, because you could issue a business license and you could revoke that license if things went sour. Thanks.
Go ahead, Daniel.
That is an excellent comment, and thank you. There was new legislation that came out last week, and I know at a staff level we're still navigating through some of that. There's a lot of right now. There's more questions than there are answers, and so we're sort of working our way through understanding that. Currently, our understanding is that this is a tool that's now been created that regional districts can use. I think the majority of the emails we've received is whether or not we're forced to implement that tool. Rarely, given our size, have we experienced being forced to. But it is a question we intend to have clarity on when we bring a report back to the board. Right now, from our view, you're absolutely correct. This is an additional tool that's been legislatively provided to regional districts, and it's one that we intend to report back to the board on to see how we intend to use it.
Dr. Boyko, you had your hand up, but you put it down?
Yeah, I think the whole legislation that came up, I put together some questions that I went to the CAO. I'm not sure if I put it to you, Jack, as well, but if I didn't, I'll send it to you right now. But there are lots of questions, and whether you're in a resort municipality like Tofino and Hewitt are designated one of the 14 in BC. Now, does the 10,000 specifies that Port Alberni is included, but it does not specify the regional district is included? Can we do this by electoral area? Can we do this by all these things? So there's lots of open questions, but we need to get a staff report back on what it actually means, because there's lots of stuff in the provincial legislation that says it will come at a later date, especially with regard to regional districts themselves. So we need to get some more information before we talk about it. And it's going to be a very lively discussion because business licenses do not exist in the electoral areas. And they're bringing one in will open up a lot of can of worms that will require a lot of public input and statements. Thank you.
Very good comments. Thank you for that. And I do think we do need to have staff report on this issue, and then also have the discussion in regards to the applicability to regional districts because of that. And I would note that this has some real Venn diagram overlaps with the whole idea of legislative reform and giving regional districts, especially electoral area directors, more control of the lands that they have, just as an intermediate between a regional district as it is now and the incorporation, which is an expensive and lengthy process. So with that, we can do more research, and if we see fit to do so, we could direct me and others to go do some lobbying as well, because I would expect that even though there may be changes to the legislation now, they're at the beginning. There are places where we might be able to convince the provincial government to do things in a certain way if we have a sense of where it should go, rather than just kind of waiting. With that, though, Director Beckett, I'm wondering if you wanted to take a stab at a motion for this particular item.
I do. Great discussion. Thank you. But I would like to make the motion that the Board of Directors issue temporary use permit TUP 23002.
Thank you. And seconded by Director Roth. Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. And finally, that brings us to item C, a development variance application for Beaver Creek. Daniel, go ahead.
This is, as you said, a development variance application that was first received here at the board table on September 27th. And at that meeting, the board resolved to consider the variance and to proceed with neighbor notification. Letters were sent to neighboring property owners and residents within 100 meters, and no public correspondence was received. Staff are recommending that the board issue the development variance permit, but I will just provide some background on what that variance is to refresh your memories. So the variance application would reduce the rear yard setbacks from 10 meter to 3 meters and the watercourse setback from 30 meters to 15 meters to allow for the construction and siting of an accessory dwelling unit on the property. Although this appears to be some pretty significant changes, staff also wanted to ensure that the board is aware that in the zoning bylaw, this is exactly the type of thing that was discussed and reviewed. And if the new zoning bylaw was in place, they wouldn't require variance to just be advancing. So it meets the various compliance elements that are there. If there are questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Thank you. Director Roth?
Yeah, I was just going to make the motion that the Board of Directors issue development permit or development variance permit DVE 23004.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Sparrow. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, that brings us to item 10.1, which are staff reports. Would anyone like to pull anything out? The only thing I state is just take a look at the meeting schedule, see if anything's funky. I didn't see anything surprising. Would you like to move to receive, Dr. Boykos? Yeah. All right. Thank you, Dr. Roth. Seconded by. Yeah.
I popped out for a second. I'm not sure where we're at.
Oh, sorry. Okay. We're just at staff reports 10.1. So moved by Director Roth. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Sparrow. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Yeah, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to item 10.2, and this is a verbal report regarding the Agriculture Development Committee meeting that was held. Dr. Boyko, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So the meeting was yesterday. I'm not sure why this is a separate line item because this pops up again in 10.3 at the bottom as well. But we had a meeting yesterday. We already talked about applying for the grant for the large cooler for the Dock Plus facility for the meat processing course, but it will be used by other people as well. One thing that's going to come up is how do we allocate who does what with this space? Because public funds are paying for it, and there's private companies working there as well as for public sponsored courses out of North Island College. So that will have to be resolved. With regard to the fall fair, we had 22,000 people through it this year in 2023, slightly down from 2022. And for 2024, they'll be rearranging the layout to improve traffic through the agricultural buildings. But overall, it was well attended, good weather as well. Eat West Coast, they're starting a new online portal, and they'll be putting out their own separate vital signs, which will be more West Coast oriented towards the Ucluelet Long Beach area. Back to Dock Plus, mines have now filled all the spaces. The blast freezer they have is now operational, which provides a lot of different opportunities for the people that are working there or using the facility. And this summer they produced 600 tons of ice for not residential, commercial and recreational fishermen. And then we ended up with a lively discussion about potential upcoming short-term rental regulations, because it does apply to a lot of agricultural places that might be exempt, might not be. Should we do it by electoral area? A lot of those questions were brought up. That's all I got. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. I do see now that maybe the report could have just been under member reports. With that in mind, maybe what we'll do is just say that that is your verbal update for 10.3. Actually, no, because it's on the agenda, I guess we do have to receive the report. Could we have a motion to receive the report? Thank you, Director Law, seconded by Director Beckett. Thank you. All those in favor? Yeah, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to 10.3 member reports. Item A is 911 Corporation. Director Beckett.
Thank you. I have no report as we only meet every 2 months. The next meeting, I believe, is November the 24th. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you for that. Vancouver Island Regional Library, Dr. Cote.
Meeting is on Friday. Thank you.
Alberta Valley Chamber of Commerce, Dr. Haggard, evening.
No report.
Thank you. Air Quality Council, Port Alberni, Dr. Sparrow.
I have a report. AQC notes from November 25th, 2023. Across Canada, home firewood burning generates more emissions and fine particulates than oil and gas and transportation and mobile equipment put together. Home firewood burning is the largest single source of fine particulates, and fine particulate emissions are lower now than 1990, but have trended up since 2006. Port Alberni and much in BC are within the CAAQ5 PM 2.5 red zones, for small particular matters. A lot of things were brought up. Some were brought up was municipalities of Qualicum Beach and North Cowichan have offered low cost or free wood chipping opportunities called Chipper Days in recent years. And the question came up, could the ACRD offer periodic opportunities like this to reduce backyard burn and wood waste? During the 4 days of the Port Alberni Fall Fair last month, there were over 100 fairgoers at the AQC's draw for 4 air purifiers. And they were wondering if they could use utility bill inserts or Let's Connect ACRD be used for vehicles for public education and outreach programs. And in the meeting, Councillor Bertolda noted that starting in July 2024, Nanaimo will not permit natural gas as the primary heat source in new home construction, which will be required across BC by 2030. And the question was brought up, could the AQC partner with the Albernian Climate Action to replicate this in Port Alberni? And has also suggested that insurers might be potential partners in promoting facilitating wood stove exchange upgrades based on the fact that wood stoves and other appliances can be non-compliant and can make a home difficult or impossible to insure. Thank you. That's my report.
Thank you for that. Okay, that brings us to the next item, West Coast Aquatic. Dan, is there any way that you're involved in West Coast Aquatic? Usually Thomas? No. Oh, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Just a question on the home wood burning. Did that include backyard burning, those statistics, or was that just home heating? Wood stove.
I just said wood stoves, yes, that was the backyard burning for slack. Oh, that was across Canada, so.
Thanks, just for clarity. I have no.
Okay, thank you. AVICC, Director Cote.
Thank you. I've been invited to the Ocean Protection Plan Dialogue Forum and also the SOMAS Estuary Symposium, which is November 1st, 2nd, 3rd. There's a couple dates in there for both of them. I would like to attend the SOMAS Estuary Symposium. It used to be part of the Barkley Salmon Working Group, which doesn't really work. So I'm asking that I am able to attend this, representing the regional district to continue on with that work. I think that some areas are being reinstated as far as the climate action with the flood and the drought situations that are happening with fisheries, which is also now including taking into consideration the level of Sprout Lake and Great Central Lake as far as managing the water for not only the fish, but for the communities. So asking to attend the SOMAS Estuary Symposium to represent the regional district. That would be under the West Coast Aquatic Board.
You have dates for those times?
November the 2nd and 3rd, and the OPP is November 1st to the 3rd. OPP is a Zoom, and the SOMAS Estuary is at the Barkley.
Okay, so you wouldn't be able to go to both of those?
No.
Would you?
No, I would like to, well, I could do November the 1st Zooming.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But the SOMAS Estuary is here.
Okay. Could the OPP one be something that staff could take on, or do you think it'd have to be a?
I think so.
Yeah. Do you think there's space for that?
It's a big time commitment, though.
I would have to take a look at schedules to see who we have available. So if we have somebody available, we can certainly send support. But otherwise, if Director Cote can go, kill two birds with one stone would be great.
Yeah. Would you like a motion to just okay it, or?
Sure.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Okay. Would anyone like to move to allow for these two events to be attended to? Dr. Haggard? Dr. Haggard, seconded by Dr. Sparrow. Thank you. Any further comments? Schedule is going to look like mine. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us. Oh, so did you have any more? Please go ahead.
I'm on to the next. So AVICC. We've been really busy at AVICC. You'll see, if you haven't received it already, an email from us calling for resolutions to start now. Nominations for the executive, any sessions that you would like to see, any sponsorship that could be promoted through us that we could suggest. There's also a call for photos of our area that we'll be running to promote our area. So we want to make an opportunity for small communities to be able to be recognized at AVICC by our membership. There would also be, if we have anything that we would like to put on a host table, we'll have to share it with all our members. Tables are very limited, but it would be free. So if there's anything that we wanted to put there, we're also talking about maybe doing something similar to UBCM. They have a day where they have a taste of BC, where if there's something that we want to do as a door prize or some kind of a promotion, there'll be that opportunity. Also, we're looking at a student opportunity to attend the business sessions. The convention would be, the fee for the convention would be waived. And we would pay up to $1,000, up to 50% of costs for student high school or post-secondary, whatever, student. The sponsoring community would be in charge of looking after the student while they were there, but there's this offering. UBCM also offers it, so if we want to think about that too, we are expecting something back from the student. We want to hear, there's going to be an application form as to why they'd like to attend, and we'd like some feedback at the end. And that's it. We're busy. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. That brings us to Beaver Creek Water Advisory Committee. Director Roth.
Hi. Yes, we haven't met since my last report. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Walk-in Public Advisory Group, Director Sparrow.
I have no report on this one at this time.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other reports? Director Cote, go ahead.
Thank you. I don't have a report yet, but I'll get one. I met with our emergency planning. Is she a manager, Karen? And Wendy Thompson. I'm not sure what her position is anymore. Corporate officer on the way out the door. We met with, it's not EMBC, EMCR to discuss the Kurt's Crib. So I will put something in writing, and that just happened yesterday. So I'll send that report on.
Great. Any further reports? Go ahead. Please go ahead, Daniel.
I figure we just got word earlier this week that our Alberni Valley Regional Airport is the proud recipient of the Silver Wings William Templeton Award. So we just received that, and we have appropriate staff going to formally receive the award in Vancouver tomorrow. It's a management award, so it's really nice to receive. Of course, I'll be out of training, so I can't go, and our airport manager broke his wrist, and so he cannot go. But we have Alicia, who will be representing the ACRD and receiving the award on our behalf. And so I am told that when we receive these awards, it makes our grant receiving ability even greater. So we'll see whether that's true in the months to come.
There's a little spot for a seal that we get that you can just put on every grant application from then on. They don't even have to do with the airport. It's really weird. No. I hope market's better. That doesn't sound good, but that's really good news. Thank you. Any further comments? Okay, seeing that, could we have a motion to receive the reports, please? Thank you, Director Sparrow, seconded by Director Beckett. Any further comments? All right, seeing none. All those in favor? Motion carried. All right. No unfinished business, no late business. Question period. Do we have any questions? There is no gallery here, so let's check the email address.
Thank you. There's no emails received, and I'm just going to check the Q&A in Zoom, and there's also no questions there. Thank you.
Oh, man. Okay, we have to wait at least a minute, so it's at least 3 o'clock. So does anyone like to filibuster for a while? Yeah. Dr. Cote, would you like to move to adjourn?
One more thing.
Okay, one more thing.
And then I'll do that. I did meet with Ministry of Forestry also about the Kurt's Crib at their office with Michael McGregor. So I'll send a report about that as well, and about different logging cut blocks. And I'd like to move adjournment.
Thank you. Would anyone like to second that? Thank you, Dr. Sparrow. Everyone would like to second that. Okay, all those in favor? A motion carried. Thank you very much. All right, it is before 3. Just knock on wood. No, we're adjourned. No, it's over now. Thank you, everyone. We will see you in the future.
Take care, everyone.
Have a wonderful day. Thanks, guys. Goodbye.